Can you imagine that John Schnatter was able to buy this massive house just because he was savvy enough to start a business with just $1,500? Yeah, you heard it right. His $1,500 came a long way, a really long way if his mansion is any indication. But it wouldn't have been possible if he didn't take the plunge, so to speak. It's a good thing that he wasn't risk-averse, although his youth may have played a hand in that. I'd like to know how he built his entire business empire, wouldn't ya? The beginning. Well, John Schnatter actually earned a degree in business from Ball State University. It makes sense, right? But as you all know, not all business graduates were able to build their own multi-million-dollar business. John, the son of a real estate agent and a judge, seemed to have inherited his parents' genius, although he took a slightly different path when he studied business. After graduating from college, John returned to Jeffersonville, where his father co-owned a restaurant called Mick's Tavern. Having spent his college years earning money as a pizza delivery driver, John was convinced his father's restaurant should also be in the pizza business. Mind you, he wasn't able to start a business just because his father co-owned the pub. No, he had to work on his own to make his idea a reality. Obviously, he started small. Schnatter started off by purchasing used pizza equipment with the money he received from selling his car. It was in 1984 when John sold his car, a 1971 Camaro Z28, to give him enough money to start the business. Now, he sold it for $1,600, which may not seem much now, but it was probably worth more at the time and harder to come by. Taking the plunge. Armed with a fresh business degree and an almost innate business savvy, he used the money wisely, bought used pizza equipment, and began selling pizzas in his father's pub. His pizzas proved sufficiently popular that a year later he moved into an adjoining space. He converted a broom closet in the back of the tavern where he made pizzas before selling them to customers. With time, his pizzas became quite popular. How popular? Well, let's just say that by 1993, when Papa John's went public, there were 254 store locations. 4 years later, the company already had 1,500 stores. I guess it's safe to say that his pizza, befittingly called Papa John's, was a hit. Of course, this meant that John's bank account benefited from it. After having barely anything after using his car sales to buy the old pizza equipment I told you about earlier, his wallet probably could barely contain his cash. Billion-dollar breakthrough. No, I'm definitely not exaggerating. At the IPO, again, this was in 1993, John owned around 30% of the company's shares, which was roughly 10 million shares. Now, needless to say, at the IPO, he became a multi-millionaire overnight. Within a few decades, his stake would earn him hundreds of millions of dollars and, very briefly, paper billionaire status. He became a billionaire briefly on paper in January 2017 when the stock price hit $84. At that level, his 10 million shares were worth $840 million. When combined with his other assets and wealth earned over a 2-decade period of receiving generous salaries and dividends, Papa John Schnatter was a paper billionaire. Imagine how John's $1,500 came a long way to $1 billion. It's unbelievable, right? And an even greater plot twist was when John reacquired the Camaro in 2009. Yeah, remember that car that started it all, so to speak? He got it back after offering a reward of $250,000 for it. Well, that's inflation right there. I'm joking. But am I really though? It was basically sold for less than $2,000 and he bought it back for $250,000. Man, that's just insane. But as I said, it meant something to him. He may have succeeded in business anyway, but the car sale helped his dreams morph into reality. What happened to his Camaro? That car's story is almost as remarkable as that of its owner. The family he sold it to had sold it, but he still paid them a $25,000 finder fee. In celebration, Papa John's offered a free pizza to anyone who owned a Camaro. Schnatter's original Camaro has been on display in the company's headquarters in Louisville. The car was basically a part of the company's history because the company owns several replicas that are used on tours and for public and TV appearances. But in August of 2015, Schnatter's original Camaro was stolen along with 2 other classic cars in Detroit, where they were slated to appear in the city's annual Woodward Dream Cruise. The Camaro was recovered 2 days later on the city's west side with minimal damage. Well, at least he found it the second time around. 3, technically, if you count the first time he set eyes on it. Anyway, going back to the story, Schnatter moved his company to Louisville, Kentucky in the late 1990s. Other business ventures. In 1996, Schnatter started a Louisville-based real estate company called Evergreen Real Estate, which owns a number of historic properties in Schnatter's home community of Anchorage, Kentucky. Then, at the turn of the century, Schnatter launched a business called Calistoga Artisan Sandwiches in 2007. The following year, he made a multi-million-dollar contribution to the Louisville Zoo's Glacier Run expansion in exchange for Calistoga having naming rights to an adjacent water park. Although the Calistoga business was mostly shut down a few years later, 3 locations continue to operate in Naples, Florida. Nevertheless, his business acumen allowed him to receive many awards, including being inducted into the Junior Achievement U.S. Business Hall of Fame in 2007, named National Ernst & Young Retail Consumer Entrepreneur of the Year in 1998, and being inducted into the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame in 2010. The controversy. Everything was going as well as could be expected. In fact, as CEO and chairman, Schnatter was highly involved in the company and brand, his face appearing on his pizza boxes and the walls of its Louisville headquarters. By 2017, he held 31% of Papa John's stock, making him the largest shareholder. Unfortunately for him, it was the last year everything was running as smoothly as he wished it could. The following year, he stepped down from his CEO post following comments he made on NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. He had blamed Goodell for doing nothing about the U.S. national anthem protest by football players. During his attempt to defuse the controversy, Schnatter got entangled in a scandal that forced him to resign as the chairman of the board of directors of the company in July of 2018. Well, to be fair, Schnatter's downfall with the company began in 2012 when he publicly criticized the Affordable Care Act. Although that storm quickly blew over, the one in 2017 when he publicly blamed the NFL for his company's poor financial performance did not blow over as easily. He believed his revenues were down because of the NFL's kneeling controversy and was upset that the league hadn't done more to stop it. The embattled founder and former CEO alleges that Democrats, the NFL, and other company officials orchestrated his departure from the company. What happened to John? By 2019, Schnatter told Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo that he actually retired by choice and wasn't forced out. At the time, even though he was no longer in the company's management, Schnatter was the largest individual shareholder at Papa John's. However, a few months later, Schnatter sold 1.9 million of the company's shares, worth about $107.5 million, according to a Securities and Exchange Commission filing. He did keep another 2.9 million shares, or around 9.2% of the company, at least according to a Fox Business report. Regardless, the fact remains that the guy who used to prepare pizzas in a converted broom closet now lives in a sprawling mansion. Yep, the exact same one you saw earlier. You've all heard what's inside his massive estate, right? In fact, according to the Louisville newspaper, the Courier-Journal, Schnatter's home is the most expensive in Jefferson County, Kentucky. The mansion on a 15-acre property is worth $12 million and includes a carriage house, a guest house, a pool, and a pond. Schnatter also reportedly owns several Camaros and a private helicopter. With all these things, you probably wouldn't have guessed that the guy who only used to work for pizza giants was able to create his very own pizza empire. Whose rag to riches story would you like to see next? Comment down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in our next video.